anything you want to say, babes?
I just want to say thank you very much to everyone that's out there fighting for me. Seeing this come together, and the support has been amazing. I've got a table full of rock stars here that are all working tirelessly around the clock fighting for this cause with me. And I just want all you guys out there across the world to know that I'm going to justify your effort, and I'm going to come back stronger and bigger and badder. And once I get back on my feet, we're going to justify all this. Make sure that all you guys' efforts don't go unnoticed. We're going to come together and have a huge, huge party.
Oh, suck it now. Hell yeah, I know my dogs are watching. And if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are watching and you ain't my dog yet, you will be, because I'm Swede and I'm here to help you get busy living. What's that? For me, that's 55 epic adventures once per month for 55 months in a row. But for you, that's tuning in here so we can help you get the mindset that it takes to live an intentional, purposeful, deliberate life. And with so many troubles, where do we begin? Well, we believe that you need to be the change you want to see in the world. You've heard it before, but how do you do it? That's what we want you to tune in tonight for. But first, since nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing, please help me welcome to the stage out of Los Angeles, the dynamic D-Rex.
You know, it's been 75 episodes, and I don't really get tired of that.
75 episodes.
Happy 75th.
Happy 75th. Wow. Man, I remember when we first started talking about this, and I don't know that I had ever even wrapped my head around the fact of even doing that many. And here we are, a year and a half later, 75 shows later. Thank you, D-Rex, for your commitment.
No, thank you. And how many are we in on the epic adventures?
We are, as of your last weekend, as of your visit last weekend, we got busy living in February. That's 18 months down, 37 to go. And a lot of that, what we're going to talk about tonight has to do with those next upcoming 37, because we're going to do a little bit of switching up here at the Get Busy Living podcast. And in order to provide you, our audience, with a higher quality product, we're going to be doing a little bit of changing around, but we'll get to that later. First, we want to talk about what this week's episode is, being the change you want to see, and what inspired this week's episode. Now, bear with me, folks. I got to be honest. when the Life in a Year of Swedism's book was being written many, many years ago, one post at a time, I never thought I'd see the day where I would be reading these things out loud. And so, to be honest with you, I'm not a spoken word poet by any means. I've never practiced this stuff. I'm not a rapper. I never even knew I was a poet until I got injured. And everybody was like, yeah, of course you are. I remember arguing with Scooty Wells in the ICU. He's like, what do you mean you're not a poet? So
I've always thought that.
I come at you guys with this that I wrote a while ago. And yes, it rhymes. I found out people just got more attracted to things that rhyme. And that's what got me into it. It wasn't because I ever thought I was a poet. But each week we pull something out of the Life in a Year of Swedism's book to bring to you, to encourage you to go to the hswa.org, reserve your copy, get entered into the raffle, and help us help Schaefer grow stronger with stem cells. So this week's Swedism's quote is quite long. It's here for you. On February 19, 2013, out of Tallahassee, I said, once upon a time in a land far, far away, the fruits and berries were plentiful and the sun rose every day. Most of the time, the skies were blue, but occasionally clouds brought precipitation, but no one complained whenever it rained because it cultured their appreciation. They knew it was true that without pains, they couldn't truly feel pleasures, and that the storm shall pass, leaving behind greener grass, soon to bloom into life's hidden treasures. The lakes and streams flowed fresh and clean, and the birds were full of song, and the bear cubs played while their mother laid still, knowing nothing was wrong. The grandfathers were wise, and the men were strong, and the children with lives of good health, and the mothers and grandmothers taught sisters and brothers to value each other's happiness over personal wealth. That land is far, far away, existing only in distant memory, and in its place a sheer disgrace are people of penalty. Driven by wrath, greed, sloth, pride, lust, envy, and gluttony, they pray every day for a magical ray to grant them serenity. They walk a path paved with wrath, arguing over whose ray is bright, Over who did that, over who said what, over and over they fight. They fight over sea, fight over sky, and fight over each other's soil. They're overwhelmed by greed, fighting for things they don't need, like penny, paper, and oil. None of these things happiness does bring, yet they themselves get driven crazy. And they know they are wrong, but their sloth prevents them remedy because change requires effort and they're too lazy. And they're too full of pride, they'd rather lie than admit their errors are in their ways. They lust after instant gratification, envious of the fields their neighbors graze. Man used to wait for rain to grow fruits on trees and flowers to bloom, but gluttony has erased our patience and we process our food in a room. In that land far away, the wise would say, all good things in time. But nowadays, the wise are paid to pipe down, so I decided to write this rhyme. I see the light, I smell what's cooking. Unfortunately, what's cooking is us. And no amount of wine and women can stop me from making a fuss. I ain't shutting up and I ain't backing down, too keen to be dizzied by the runaround. It's never too late to change our fate, and it's too important to me. I can't change the world in my lifetime, but I can change what I look in the mirror and see. I'm going to start by ridding myself of committing the cardinal sins. And by teaching my seed, it's not he who dies with the most toys, but with the most joys who wins. So D-Rex, I'm going to say the part that you felt was worth reading aloud, and I got to admit that you weren't a big fan of me saying all that, but there's a part that I'm going to go back over because it's really what this episode, what we're going to focus on in this, our 75th episode. Said,
it wasn't that I wasn't a fan of you reading this out loud, because I really do like the whole thing. I just thought it was a lot to read. And oftentimes when we do this show at this point in the day, our friend Swede has some vision issues and I thought it would be a lot. So let's not make it sound like I didn't enjoy that.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that you did. That's reassuring. But
That's
I
right.
do think that this one part that stood out to both you and I got to be honest, a lot of the times when it's time for me to go back over this, I don't even remember. These things are so far in my past. I don't know what I was thinking that day or what was on my mind. Sometimes it seems like I was mad about something. Sometimes it seems like I was just trying to be funny. Apparently whatever it was that was happening this day, probably something political, talking about this utopian world that was in the past and now how men are, all these 7 deadly sins that men are that are committing today. So there's no telling what was going through my mind then. But the way that it ends is it's never too late to change our fate. And it's important to me. And I can't change the world in my lifetime, but I can change what I look in the mirror and see. I'm going to start by ridding myself of committing the cardinal sins. And by teaching my seed, it's not he who dies with the most toys, but with the most joys who wins.
Yes. That is the part that really resonates with me. And some of these things that you read, I always have to ask you, like, you wrote that? Like you made that up? Because it's like, that's such a bumper sticker there. He who dies with the most toys, but with the most joys wins, So let's actually, when we get into this topic today, I can't wait to discuss it in terms of joys over toys. What did we want to discuss first? Because I don't want to jump ahead.
Well, no, actually, I think that that's the perfect thing to begin with. And because, like you said, you probably think of that as a bumper sticker because there once was a bumper sticker, he who dies with the most toys wins.
Yes.
I don't think that's a bumper sticker that Forrest Gump wrote, although there are plenty of those. But it's one of the things, the reason that I felt confident about this particular DISM for our 75th and final weekly episode was because it in some way sums up a lot of the things that we've been talking about over the past 75 weeks or plus about getting busy living and what it is to get busy living. So before we go too far into that, let's say hello to our friends in the comment section. What's up to Mr. Nate Young Beck? That's my man I was talking to earlier. Nate, thank you for tuning in, bro. He said, you are a straight poet, broski. I get to be a broski now. All right. Hey, Jess, what's up, girl? Long time no see. Shake and bake, baby. Hell yeah. And we got Lil Boozy in the house. What's up, Lil Boozy? Good to see you, mama. Thank you
She
very
always has
much.
such great things to add.
I know. Yes.
Never
Never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You know what that reminds me of? There's a song. There's a song called Just Visiting. And it says something along those lines. You'll never see a hearse with a trailer hitch. And the song Just Visiting is talking about being aware of what we have and not getting caught up so much in life's trivials. And that's kind of what, kind of what we're talking about today is that, when it comes to getting busy living, it's so easy to get stuck on the hamster wheel and to just work your tail off until you don't have a tail anymore, or to get caught up in all of the trivials that are this crazy, insane life that we're trying to live and never really enjoying our lives. We've had so many different offers of advice over the course of the past year and a half, that we're trying to encourage people to be mindful of what their life is and not to just be alive. And that's a good quote there. You'll never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul because you can't take it with you, and that's what's profound about that. The end of that, is learn to enjoy your life and get busy living. So D-Rex, what's it like? What's it like to get busy living?
Oh, are we going to talk about the Sunrise to Sunset project?
I think we can. I think that was, I can go on and on about it.
Okay, well, let me back up and let people know what we were up to this past weekend. I visited Phoenix and we decided that we are going to take a day from sunrise to sunset and have as much fun as possible. And it wasn't really planned out, which was actually, I think, an important aspect of it, right?
Yes.
We just had one main goal, and that was to reconnect with an old high school friend of ours. And that was the only thing that was really planned, to go meet up with her and her kid. And that we did. But we did start out first thing early in the morning before the sun rose. And it wasn't a spectacular sunrise, but that wasn't the point.
Right.
It wasn't the point. And we got on the road to Tucson, and it was beautiful regardless. The desert is in bloom. It's spring. The weather is temperate. And as you get more toward Tucson, the landscape changes. So there was a lot to look at. And of course, the conversation was good. And we had already picked up coffee. So that, in my opinion, was already a really good start to the day.
Amen.
And and I like this idea of pick a day, go from sunrise to sunset, and see how much you can do without planning it out too much. And I want to encourage everybody to give this a try in your own way. I also liked that we didn't have to travel very far to do this. We only went about an hour and a half south of there. And anybody can go within an hour and a half of where they live and find adventure. Anybody can take the time to reconnect with an old friend. And I like that these are things that anybody can do. We didn't go to some exotic location. Well, I guess to some people, Tucson would be pretty exotic, right?
Right.
So,
sure.
Yeah. So it started out really well. We had no problem meeting up with our friend. And we started out by just having a nice leisurely breakfast. And that was so nice. I hardly ever do that. And to reconnect with our old friend was honestly, that's all we had to do that day. And I would have been completely thrilled. Right? Like that was
absolutely.
Oh, Aaron's asking who. Do we say names on here?
Of course. Come on.
Okay. So I mean, do we say first and last names? I don't know. Like, what do we share?
I mean, I've never hesitated. I've said many names. Of course, most of my friends are
Oh,
code names.
that's true.
But
That's true.
if for some reason she doesn't like it, we can always bleed it out. I mean,
Okay,
but
so
we can.
our friend Ann Danielski, who I've been going to school with, middle school, she lives in Tucson, and I've known her forever. She's one of my best friends, and fell out of touch for no good reason at all. But we knew she was down there, and we kept saying, "Yeah, we're going to visit. We're going to visit." And then we finally intentionally made a plan and went down there to visit. And I can't even explain how wonderful it was. We were all talking the entire time. And we started out by having breakfast. We went to a beautiful park, let the kid run around, learned how to throw a boomerang. We looked it up on YouTube. That was and we all learned how to throw a boomerang.
T-Rex, you were getting ahead at the end, man. You're about to be you're almost borderline Aborigine by the time we left that park.
That is not true. So yeah, I got it to curve. I got the boomerang to curve, and that was fun. I've never thrown
That's
a
no
boomerang
small feat.
before. And I've never done that before. That was something brand new. We saw wildlife. It was just beautiful. The weather was great. And then we decided to take a trip up the mountain there, just start driving up the mountain. And I really like that this was not planned. It was just one of these things where, well, we could do this. Well, let's just start doing that and figure it out. So we start heading up the mountain, and you have the saguaro cactuses all around. They're just like covering the mountains. It was beautiful already. And she's in the back seat, and she said, "Well, I don't really want to like go all the way up because I get car sick." But her kid goes, "No, let's go all the way up." And you were like, "Yeah, let's go all the way up." So
Going
she
all
was
the
like,
way,
"Okay,
baby. Going all the
we're
way.
going all the way up." And we went all the way up that mountain. We went through all of these rock formations, like huge overlooks, and got to the top of the mountain where there was snow, and threw a snowball and got some ice
On the
cream.
windshield.
Yes. I mean, it was an adventure. None of that was planned. Every bit of it made it special. And we took our time coming back down the mountain, took some time to look over the city, just kind of hang out and just spend time at the overlooks. And once we got to the bottom, we decided, well, maybe instead of rushing back to Phoenix and trying to catch the sunset and don't know if we'd get there in time, we're just going to stay and we're going to have dinner with her and her mother. Now, this is another interesting thing.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
were not planning on seeing her mother, but her mom is like a second mom to me. I slept at their house so many times I can't count. And her mom was hugely influential on me. And she's a very bright and quick-witted woman in her 80s. It's incredible.
Wow. Wow.
And remember at the table, I said, "So tell me about your life here." And you said, no, back up. You have to back up many more years than that. And she went all the way back to being a teenager.
Yeah, because,
And
you know, from the moment I've never met the woman, you know,
Mhm.
from the moment that she walked up, before she even sat down, as soon as she spoke, if you had only heard our voices, if you were to be a part of that experience and could only hear voices, you would not know she was not our age. You would not know she was Ann's mom. You would not think she was in her 80s. Her voice, her vibrance, her, like, you know, I don't know what causes, you know, the voices to change as we age, but a lot of people become frail or weaker or not as fast. She was quick. She was, like, I was blown away. So she started talking, and you're like, "So tell me how's life been since 95?" And I was like, "Whoa, first, wait, I got to go back." Like, I was just infatuated with this woman, you know, for real.
Yes.
Look at it. Jess says boomerangs are badass. Boomerangs are badass, especially when you try to throw it first and it barely moves, and then you can actually get it to curve around a little bit. I was impressed. But no, as far as Ann's mom, I mean, really, it was, I was blown away. I mean, I fell in love with that woman. And I was just hanging on every word. And she told us
She,
so many amazing
she
stories.
told
And
us so many fantastical stories. And, this, I'd like to tie this back to a previous podcast that we did about having friends of all ages. I mean, her stories were of things that probably couldn't even happen today because of when they happened, and because of the technology of those times, and because of the trust level of citizens at the time. And they were very time stories of their time, and they were fascinating. And this isn't something that we were going to get from someone our age, because it couldn't have happened. And we were hanging on her every word. Like, those stories were so good. Dinner was good. Like, everything that happened that day was so amazing. And then after that, we cut out because the kid needed to go to sleep. And I mean, we had been talking nearly the entire day. And I think the sun went down as we were eating dinner, and we didn't even see it because we were so invested in those stories.
yeah.
It was an amazing day, and we could not stop saying how much we enjoyed that entire day. And that was just a mere 12 hours of adventure.
Yeah. This project, the Get Busy Living project, an effort to try to enlighten and inspire and encourage people to not give up on the childhood dreams that we had. That you tend to grow older and you tend to have more stresses and more obligations, and you tend to lose track of what you wanted to be when you grow up. And I'm never going to give up pursuing the freedom that I once had and that I lost when I got injured. And I hope that the spirit that it takes to do that, I hope that you get a little taste of that each week here. And with this one day of Getting Busy Living, we talked about it ahead of time that we were going to try to get busy living in one day, because a lot of people, can't take off a week or even an entire weekend. Well, that's okay. It doesn't require an entire weekend. The spirit is just about acknowledging that you have a life and that your life is not about others' wealth. And it's not just, look, I'll never tell you not to be a good parent to your kids, but you can be a parent and you can still enjoy your life. You can break away for a day or bring your kids for a day and just put down the stress, put down the strife, and just have the spirit of that you had when you had that exuberance of youth, And so we decided to try to see what we could do from sunrise to sunset. How can we get busy living in a day? And to not go with a plan and to just, think about it. When we went into it, we're like, okay, we got a couple of good ingredients here. Number one ingredient, we're just going to see a nice sunrise and maybe try to be there for a nice sunset, right? So that's a good way, a good approach for those of you that don't want to get busy living in one day. Just try to make it a sunrise to sunset day. Like, be somewhere cool for the sunrise and be somewhere cool for the sunset. If those are the only things you do, I promise you will consider it a great day. But in the middle, what we did, that two other key ingredients. Number one, good company. Now look, can you do it alone? Of course you can. Of course you can. And I've done many times alone. And my man, Scooty Wells, who is probably the one that showed me how to get busy living, a lot of his lone wolf adventures are the ones that I was most inspired by. So you can do it alone, but it's much more enjoyable. Like I say every day, nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing. If you got good company, that makes it that much better. And for us to have a friend from high school, a childhood friend of yours, and someone who, when we were talking about it, ever since you told me that Ann lived in Tucson, I was like, oh man, I just thought about how excited I was to see her, because although she and I were never outside of school friends, we had many classes together and it was always great conversation. She never gave me the impression like she was looking past me or ignoring me, and it was always like, there was never this, like, we never had any kind of friction or any kind of ulterior motives, just two authentic people that really genuinely had something to say and were good listeners, So I was really looking forward to getting back with her. And so going into that day of Getting Busy Living, I was really excited about that company. Of course, being with you, D-Rex, is always a wonderful day, but I was looking forward to catching up with her. And you know what? To break away and make a point, she has not changed a bit. She looks just like she did the last time I saw her, graduation 1995. She looks the same. She sounds the same. She behaves the same. I just loved her spirit and her energy. It just filled me up, and look, just like all of us are having our share of stripes in life, nothing, she's not living a perfect life, but it was a perfect day to just sit and talk with her, so the good company is number 2. And then the third ingredient is to get out into nature. We went to
Super
that
important.
park. And while we were at the park, or first we went to breakfast, and her daughter is so adorable. But first we went to
And
breakfast.
you can't beat good food either. Good food.
No, yeah, that's another key ingredient. But breakfast, good food, good company at breakfast. And then we were like, okay, at breakfast, like we really didn't have a plan at all for the day. So it's like, what do you want to do at breakfast? And we were like, well, we saw a park on the way in, maybe we can go to a park. And she brought up that her daughter was wanting to learn how to throw a boomerang. So we were like, okay, we'll go to the park and throw the boomerang. So we end up at this, not even the park that we first mentioned, the park that we thought we were going to go to wasn't the park we went to. And so we went to the park that they knew of. Amazing just to get out into nature and be sitting there. I mean, what a beautiful day it was. And I guess if you're in New England or if you're in Minnesota, maybe, late February is not a beautiful day, but we're in Arizona. It was a beautiful day. And so
gorgeous.
to get out into nature was wonderful. We were at a park with a pond. So being next to water always does it for me, And so at that point I was happy. Honestly, at that point, it wasn't even noon yet, but I was like, all right, this is the kind of day that I think of when I think about not just being alive, but getting busy living days like today, And then you were like,
Yes.
well, where are we going to go? And because we originally thought that we were going to have to leave and break away from her because she had other things going on. Well, luckily she cleared out her schedule for us. So we're like, well, we'll stick around longer. What do you want to do? And you were like, and do you know of anywhere that there's a nice lookout? Swede likes a good view. And she's like, yeah, I know of a perfect place. So we're headed towards the place. And like you said, we were going to go get her car because of her motion sickness issue. But she's like, no, I think we can handle it if we're just going to go here to this one spot, So we were headed towards.
I'd like
that
to also
one
add
overlook.
that she said that, well, let's get some snacks. And because I actually think that this part was really funny too, where we decided to go get snacks before we headed up the mountain, because you need those if you get a little bit of car sickness. And she got all these snacks that I used to eat in like middle school, like combos and
combos. Oh my God, that was a blast from the past, man. I really felt like I was in Erie again, eating combos and hanging out with Diana Eckstein and Danielle.
She's in the back seat. Yeah, it's like, it was so fun. Yeah.
And then so as we were starting to approach the lookout that she had in mind for us originally, think about how much further we went past that lookout. We went far up past that lookout. But it was really cool. Think about, so we're going up the side of this mountain. And if you have never been to Tucson, I've only been there a couple of times. And this is the first time I've ever actually explored the area. The only times I'd ever been there before, I went to a concert and I went to my friend's parents' house. So this is my first time actually like getting out into the city, going up there. And I've been all around Arizona. I can't think of anywhere I've ever been that had that thick of a saguaro forest. Like there was more cactuses on the side of that mountain, more cactuses that had their 100-year arms on them. It was so amazing. If you've never seen a saguaro forest, I don't know if that's what they call them, but it's truly a sight to behold. So I was already infatuated with just that. But then the rock formations on the side of the road were just blowing my mind. And so when we're starting to approach where we were originally planning to pull off, and her daughter was like, how far are we going? Can we go higher? And then you're like, no, mommy's going to get car sick. And Anne's like, no, we can do it. We can do it. And I'm like, we're going all the way, baby.
And it was definitely worth it. We didn't plan to see snow that day. No snow was in our plans. And, I would also like to mention, when I said something about having friends of all ages and how cool it was to hear from her mom, if you think about it, we also had, 9-year-old with us. Like, she was truly being my friend, like she was like, I want to do this. And I'd say, okay, we're going to do this. We spent a good long time doing some photography projects in the park, and I hung out with her quite a bit. And I do hang out with children quite a bit, so I'm good at it. But we had a good time too. It wasn't just me donating time, like we had a good time. So not only did I hang out with a super young friend, I hung out with a super older friend, and we got to hang out with our same age friend. And I think in that way, we really were practicing what we preach that day, you know?
Amen.
Friends
Speaking
of
of
all
friends,
ages. Oh,
so
hi.
CJ Industry in the house. And then Nate, when we were talking about the saguaro forest, said beautiful. And yeah, I mean, it was such a nice day just to, to go up on the mountain. I mean, I was just blown away. I was like, I mean, it was barely the afternoon, and I was like full. I was just really, I've mentioned times on past episodes about what I went through. There were times when I was overseas after I got injured when, it didn't feel like it was going to be worth it. And I just kept on telling myself that there's a reason, there's a brighter day. All these people chipped in to keep you around. There are brighter days. Just keep pushing. And I'm telling you, when I was thinking that, days like we had last weekend were the kind of days that I was imagining. Those are the kind of days that I was imagining. Just driving up that mountain, and I just like every time we took another turn and there was another beautiful view, and to hear a child giggling in the back seat, and just like friends, young and I mean old friends, and it's just, I mean, seriously, those are the things that we lose track of if we get too caught up in the grind, and that's what this show is all about, man. It's about not just being alive, but getting busy living. We've got a lot of comments here in the section.
Yeah.
So Nate and Curtis, it looks like Nate and Curtis are also friends from back in the day. And then check Boozy out. Yeah, Boozy, that's exactly right. 3 generations of ladies in one day. I mean, granddaughter, daughter, and mom and grandma. And there was, I mean, I was just so full. I was just so full of that, I mean, Scooty Wells chiming in. They are really, I know this, before I came to Arizona, I was not aware of how beautiful the desert is. I never thought about it. You watch Bugs Bunny and you think it's just like rocks and like a weed and a tumbleweed, you don't think, maybe I sound like a fool talking about Bugs Bunny and talking about the jungle, or like Looney Tunes, the Roadrunner or whatever. But
that was our only reference coming from Erie, Pennsylvania. That's
I know,
the only
right? Really,
you have to the desert.
Yeah, I had no idea. So when I first, I lived in this city for several years before I ever really got a chance to see what it looked like on the outskirts and in this Arizona area. And I was never a fan of plant life. As much as I watched National Geographic and all that stuff when I was a kid and was infatuated with the ocean and infatuated with animals of all kinds, I'd never been one to care about a flower or a tree or a bush or a cactus for sure. For sure, cactuses were like the most boring. Like, why would you care about a cactus? But now that I've been in this area and I've seen them, they are impressive. And I can't wait. We made a point to tell Ann that when they start flowering, we're going to go out of our way to make another trip down there and go grab her and go do another tour. Because when the cactuses start flowering, it is really amazing. You out of your mind. Catch me a rattlesnake. No, I'm leaving those Arizona Diamondbacks to the baseball players. I'm not messing with it. And yeah, Nate, you ain't lying, man. It really is. When you think of heaven, you think of clouds. You don't think of cactuses. But for those of you that are tuning in now or later, trust us. It's worth it. I mean, the Grand Canyon is in Arizona, and you don't always think of, desert when you think of the Grand Canyon, because they do kind of seem like, it's not really the same, because the Grand Canyon's, the elevation is so high, and the desert that's down here in the valley is very different. But it does not disappoint. I mean, when you see these saguaro cactuses that are like 30 feet high, and they've got all these different baby cactuses growing out of them, and they're like, they're technically, I guess they're branches, But the way that, yeah, Scott's mentioning, and once I learned how old they grow to, it was mind blowing. Yeah. So you see these cactuses that are 15, 30, 40, 50 feet tall, and they've got these arms coming out of them at 15 feet, and another one at 17 feet, and another one at 25 feet. And they've got these arms going out of them. And it's not the same as when you see a tree. You don't look at a tree, even though we all know that trees have rings and that they're old. It's not the same. Something about seeing a cactus, it just makes you.
And you know what?
Appreciate.
Yes, seeing it there, the desert has so many amazing colors that you really don't see anywhere else. I mean, even every location has its own kind of color wheel, right? But the colors in the desert they blow my mind constantly. And Tucson kind of blew my mind when it came to vegetation. I had no idea desert vegetation could be so dense and interesting. Just the whole thing was so amazing. Hey, Erin says she's going to be here or there next February. So
What?
I think there's a little road trip that's going to be happening then.
I know you can't tease us like that. Are we included in your plan? I mean, I got a guest bedroom with your name on it, and I'm known to roll out the red carpet.
Literally.
Let us know, Boozy, if you're going to be, what the plan is, and if we can take part in that. We'd die to see you.
I'd like to add something. If you do decide to take a day between sunrise and sunset to do anything, to go with the flow, to see what can happen, I do believe that you will never regret it if you take a bit of that time to call up and reconnect with an old friend. Because honestly, nothing in that day compares to being able to reconnect with an old friend. And you don't have to go physically visit them, but if you spend time during that day reconnecting with someone that you miss and that you want to find again, you'll never regret that.
That's so true. And I'm going to throw little Boozy back up here. You're picking me up from the airport, Swede. So speaking of old friends, I did not see it coming, but last year when I drove towards Pennsylvania, and I stopped in Nashville, and picked up a passenger, and out of nowhere, turned out the Steelers were playing in Nashville or in Charlotte, just a few hours to the east, and spontaneously decided to drive over on into North Carolina. That's where Charlotte is, right? North Carolina. And lo and behold, who's in the house? Lil Boozy's in the house. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Come on. You gotta come. We gotta meet up. She's like, yeah, for sure. I'll meet you for coffee. And just the spirit that you're describing of seeing old friends just came alive, and I didn't care what had to happen. I was not going to miss an opportunity to go hang out with my old friend. And then we get there, and what started off to be just a little short, quick coffee date, I ended up talking her into, I think we had a twist of fate that day. She doesn't know it, but I'm the one that flattened your tire. No, she had a flat tire, and she's like, oh man, my vehicle's stuck. And I was like, well, I guess that means you have to come to the game with us. So it ended up going from what was going to be a quick coffee date turned into not just Lil Boozy joining us, but also her son came with us. So what a great day, and it's all in the spirit. It's all in the spirit of getting busy living. It's all in the spirit of making the most out of the opportunity. It's all in the spirit of having a purposeful, deliberate attitude. Yeah, exactly. That was so cool. It really was cool.
Yeah. And it's important to have the right attitude to follow the flow. And I mean, it's funny that I'm sitting here preaching that of all people, because that I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always willing to follow the flow or say yes or do things without them being planned better. But something changed when you came to visit me in LA before you left for Bali. And you were trying to convince me, like, someday you have to come to Bali and visit me. Yeah, you really do have to. And I was like, I don't do that. And you were like, well, you're going to have to. And then, of course, I had my mind made up. I was not going to visit you in Bali. But you planted a little seed in my head. And I started to wonder, why do I say no to something like that? Why don't I say yes? Why can't I say yes? Why am I like this? I started some serious introspection about why is my automatic answer to things no? And why is my automatic reaction to traveling is that's too hard or that's not for me? And I had to do a lot of soul searching to get past some dusty ideas that were rolling around in my head. And right after that, I didn't go to Bali, but I did plan a family trip to Europe, and I had never been to Europe. And that's what really kind of got me out of my traveling. What would you call that? Fear. It might have been fear-based, reluctance. Yeah. And that really got me rolling on going new places, saying yes, and just being more flexible. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, being like flexible and following that flow. And now
It starts to happen naturally, huh?
yeah, and now I'm good at it, and we had the best time. We had the best time this weekend.
In just one day. And, I remember, first of all, us even catching up that day was last minute thing. It ain't like we were planning that. I was like, I'm going into LA. Who do I know in LA? So I just put on Facebook, like friends in Los Angeles or something, and your name popped up. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, out of
And you're
nowhere.
like,
Hadn't
what?
seen him in like 20 years. Yeah.
You're like,
I
I got like lessons today.
you're
I was like, "All right,
definitely
come on,
my
too
most
much."
spontaneous friend.
What's that?
You're my most spontaneous friend.
Well, I'm glad that I've been able to rub off on you, and that I would like to actually get back to a little bit about what I plan to talk about as far as the theme of the show and the being the
Yes,
change that you want to see.
Yes, let's
Because
do it.
the Get Busy Living project is very much me trying to in some way, shape, or form show my gratitude for the second lease on life that I have. That that I was rescued from a pile of rubble by a group of strangers that I hope to someday find out who you are, so that I can shake your hand personally, and so much more. But in my efforts to repay that debt of gratitude, I just felt like when the opportunity was recommended to me that to do a podcast and spread the message, I just thought that, okay, what message am I going to spread? And the message that I wanted to spread was the type of spirit that I felt was instilled into me at a young age to try to make the most out of this life, that tomorrow is not promised. And so to make the most out of today. And so I like to think that these things that you're going to read out of the book, Life in the Air of Swedism's book, is me being the change that I want to see. And that's very important when it comes to understanding how, to make the world a better place and feel like your life has meaning, because it's so easy to feel insignificant. It's so easy to say, why does it matter? And just sit around and watch TV and not think anything matters, but it does matter. The gift of life that you're given is the greatest gift. And so honor it by making the most of it, And so when it comes to being the change you want to see, there's some levels to it. So I've got this here for you guys to follow along with me and, get an idea of what I mean by that. So some of the things that you want to keep in mind when it comes to being the change you want to see. First of all, taking personal responsibility. Like it says here, your actions and your choices, instead of waiting for others to initiate change, you proactively embody the values and behaviors you wish to see in the world. We've talked on this show about so many different aspects of our existence, and we were just talking last week about not being a complainer. And we've talked about, setting goals and voraciously pursuing them, and we've talked about having high moral character. And we've talked about being vulnerable, and we've talked about being compassionate. These are all things that if you're going to complain about what the world is and about the way that other people are, the best way to overcome that is to yourself, be a better person. We've talked on the show about turning the other cheek. All of these things all go into making this a better place. And that's something to take pride in. When you can look yourself in the mirror and say that you are a part of the reason that the world is a good place to be, then that makes you not feel so small. You know what I mean? And I think that this authenticity and consistency thing, I mean, you said some pretty strong words about authenticity when we were talking about Anne, and why that's important,
Yeah. I mean, it's, you would hope that you're a person that, what you see is what you get. But, we all have these walls we build and all these stories we concoct and these images we like to keep up. But I think that's something that it was so refreshing to hang out with somebody. What you see is what you get. Everything's completely straightforward. And not many people can be like that, because a lot of times people are putting on a show or keeping up with the Joneses. And authenticity is not that. It's being vulnerable. And being vulnerable is not easy, and consistently vulnerable is certainly not. But oh, thanks, guys. I wanted to say hello to the audience earlier. Totally, we just jumped right into our storytelling, and I just want to say we're so glad you're here, and thank you for chiming in. It's wonderful to see your faces here, and if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from, we really like to see that as well.
Yeah. And yes, Bali does rule. And I truly do, deep down and from the bottom of my heart, hope to make Bali one of the remaining 37. And I know that those things are down the road when my health is better, and I do believe that it will get better. But I would love to make Bali one of the Project 55. And so thank you, Jess. Thank you. That really makes it worthwhile to see things like this in writing. So thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope that this is, just the beginning of a regular viewership for you. She's coming at us from Ackworth, Georgia. Hell yeah. All the way from the GA, baby. And, I love what you said about authenticity and vulnerability. It is not easy. Because it's so, we're just conditioned to be perfect and to keep up with the Joneses all the time. And none of us are perfect, so when you can embrace what you actually are, and it helps when you know that you're doing your best, and your presence, if you're not lying and cheating and stealing, if you're not cutting all the corners and taking advantage of people, it's easier to be your authentic self. And I find that the people that are putting up the biggest fronts are the people that you wouldn't trust, you wouldn't turn your back on. So just be trustworthy, and it's so much easier to be authentic when you know that you're coming from a good place. So that's definitely a huge part of being the change you want to see. And then this part, the inspiring others. Man, when I think about inspiration, there are some guys that I met when I was in my early 20s. I came from a generationally poor family. Like, there's no wealth anywhere in my family tree. I mean, there's some property ownership and that kind of thing, but and some pride, but no real wealth. And it doesn't take wealth, but I was not set up, for any kind of financial success, which without any kind of financial success, money isn't the key to happiness, but it sure does grant you some freedoms, and these mentors pointed me in the direction of personal development. They gave me some books to read, and they gave me some success principles to embrace. And most importantly, they pointed me in the direction of seeking knowledge and being, somebody that I was proud for my daughter to follow. And although at that young age, and having grown up without parents, I don't have any confidence in the parent that I was at that age prior to meeting these guys. I was trying, and my heart was in the right place. I was going to be there, and I was going to do my best and protect and provide. But as far as becoming a good example for her, I won't swear that I'm a great example today, but I can swear to you that I wouldn't be anything near what I am today if not for these guys and their willingness and these mentors whose names I'll leave out, were definitely the type of guys that we're trying to inspire. And so if you make that a part of your mission, it leads you to the path of virtuosity, where if you're trying to inspire people, then you're not going to take shortcuts. You're not going to cheat. You're not going to do the things that cause us to put up facades and backtrack on our authenticity. And I'm telling you, when it comes to getting busy living, a lot of it has to do with just being able to relax. And when you're not putting up a facade and you're not having to keep up with all the lies you've been telling, relaxing and embracing the moment is so much simpler. And so please take a moment, look in the mirror, ask yourself, are you fronting? Ask yourself, am I being honest with everyone? Am I living lies? Because if you are, I'm here to encourage you to back off of that, because it's exhausting and it distracts you from embracing the day and enjoying life and getting busy living. And I'm going to leave it at that with a moment of silence, because I just hope that if my second lease on this planet is worth anything, I hope that I do inspire someone, to live a better life, be the change they want to see, take some personal accountability, become your most authentic self on a consistent basis, and put forth effort to inspire others. And I think that you'll find that you feel so much more alive that way.
I feel like inspiring others just can kind of come in the form of any kind of advice or help that you can give to somebody who is struggling. And it's so important that, once you feel you have a handle on some aspect of your life and you have some story to tell or some information someone can use, it's almost your responsibility to give it as a human being. So inspiring others sounds kind of like, oh, I feel so smart that I need to share it with others. But honestly, it's just friendship. It's just sharing. It's just being a good example and showing somebody else how they could do the same.
Amen. I've had some questions come to me throughout the course of executing this thing about getting busy living and about, is it, because the whole one epic adventure every single month for 55 months in a row. It's like, I don't have the money to go on an epic adventure every month. And it's like people thought I was like trying to rub in their face that I had some kind of money with me. And that's not the case at all, and it's when it comes down to inspiring, it's not about wealth, like we started the show off. It's not he who dies with the most toys that wins. It's the most joys, and when it comes to inspiring, I think that, it's just about, when people watch your moves, move in a way that makes them want to move like you. Whether it's, walking with your shoulders back and wearing a smile, whether it's making eye contact, whether it's having a firm handshake, whether it's keeping your word, these are all easy things that we can do that when others see us, that they can be inspired, and look, I'm not, by no means, we talk all the time off air about our imperfections and never want to come across snooty or like we're holier than thou. That's not the point. It's not about being,
we definitely don't have the answers.
yeah. It's not about being holier than thou. It's about aspiring. And when you are aspiring, you are inspiring. I love this. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Nate. Little Boozy always comes with it. Humility is one of the most inspiring characteristics I've seen.
Can I add something here? You want to inspire others, but I'd like to also add that remain open to being inspired by others. Like, we'll never have all the answers, and it's important to be open-minded. And speaking of being inspired, we have we have a little friend that inspires us all the time to be better people. And you might want to add something about our friend Schaefer.
Absolutely. But first, let's get to this. So what we're trying to do here with the Get Busy Living Project, one of our most important missions is to try to make an impact on this planet. And we got a guy here that deserves our help as much as anyone you're ever going to see. Look at this man pushing this car. This boy has the heart and spirit that will inspire you until the end of the earth. Our man Schaefer is living with cerebral palsy, and his mom, Lori, chimed in a while back and let us know that Schaefer was a hardworking and stem cells have the efficacy to help with cerebral palsy. So by all means, please go to hswa.org. Reserve your copy of The Life and Air of Swedism's book. Help us help Schaefer. $50 or more. Reserve your copy. And every bit that you put in helps. And the first 1,000 donors are entered to win an airfare included, all expense paid, 6-night guided tour with Swede Wells in Alaska. So you can tune into the show, get your dose of Getting Busy Living inspiration here just by what we say in our message, which has been weekly, but we're going to talk a little bit later about going monthly. And then also reserving your copy of the book can get you a lot of the things that are the posts that we put up on social media in the past that we like to think are inspirational. Thirdly, you could possibly win this raffle and go on the most epic adventure of your life in Alaska with Adventurous Alaska Swede Wells. And then most importantly, your proceeds of your donations are going to go to helping Schaefer get to Panama so that we can get him some stem cell treatment. So please help us help him, support the cause, reserve your copy. And actually, if you don't find yourself interested in a book, I'm going to just go ahead and play this one more time. Oh, Sookie now. Schaefer Squad merch is here. Show your support. Go to the hswa.org and click on the menu dots where you'll find the donate tab that leads to the Schaefer Squad merch link. Scroll past the greeting to find our wide range of Schaefer Squad merch, from adult tees, kid tees, onesies, and beanies for the babies, adult hoodies, hats and kicks, an apron for the cook, a hoodie for the pet, and a puzzle for the family. All prices include the outrageous cost of shipping, and all proceeds go toward helping Schaefer get a potentially life-changing stem cell treatment. And this just in, check out the new Schaefer Squad scarf coming soon to a viral video near you. You gotta believe. And always remember, we're all in this together.
You can see it when you see me, but you gotta believe me. Ain't nothing coming easy my way. No, I work for this.
Our man.
Yeah, he's totally inspiring. Just amazing kid. Hardly anybody would be worth helping more than this kid get his stem cells, to get his footing in life, get a little leg up. You know, he's gotten through so much so far, but wouldn't it be great to help him even the playing field a bit? He's totally inspiring.
Absolutely. It will be. And at this point, I want to let you guys know that we are making a major change here to the Get Busy Living podcast schedule. So we have both full lives, and we have done our best, 75 shows, at bringing it to you once a week. And up until the Get Busy Living podcast episode 24.9, you could count on us being here every Thursday. But starting the month of March 2024, we are going to come at you, rather than coming every week, we're going to come at you every third Thursday. Now, we're doing this because we feel as though it gives us more of an opportunity to bring you a high quality show, a high quality production, more pointed. We're going to be able to talk more about our destinations that we're going to do each month. We're going to be able to talk more about the progress that we're making for Schaefer and for our future nominees. And we're going to be able to spread the word a little bit more effectively and do proper promoting, proper planning, and make it more worth your while, make it more of an event. So this is not a goodbye. This is not an over. This is just a reschedule. So every third Thursday, still going to be at 9 Eastern time, still going to be on the Get Busy Living podcast YouTube channel. And don't get me wrong, if we feel so inspired, we just might go live. So stay tuned. You never know, we might come up with a live show here and there. But for the most part, we're going to move to just the third Thursday of every month for the foreseeable future. That'll give us a little bit more time to excel more at the production quality of the show for you. And then personally, there's some things in my personal life that I need to focus a little bit more heavily on that are inspiring this. But it's all in an effort to bring you guys a more high quality project and to make it more worth your while. And hopefully by properly promoting and properly producing and this show, we'll be able to see a little bit more growth. So we want to say thank you from the most sincerest spot in my heart. Thank you to each of you that have shown up weekly. I get messages all the time talking about the show. So we do have quite a loyal audience that watches every one of our shows each week, and I'm very thankful for that. And we hope that by spacing it out more, that it will just allow us to do a better job for you guys, our audience. So again, thank you so much to each of you that have shown up every Thursday, but we are going to be moving to the third Thursday of every month starting in March. So the Big Get Busy Living Podcast episode 24.10 is going to come to you the third Thursday in March. D-Rex, you have been so amazing. I cannot believe that you made it every single week. There was like 1 or 2 weeks aside from Thanksgiving that I wasn't able to make it, and one way that you weren't. But to come into this blind with I want to be a podcaster when I grow up, and for you to pull off this level of consistency, you have inspired me, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing 75 shows in a row like that. What an awesome show.
Well, you are welcome, but I think I speak for a lot of the people that show up here every week that you're a huge inspiration yourself. It's unbelievable what you get done every week. I know you only see what doesn't get done, but you get a ton of stuff done. So I would like to say thank you to everybody who's been here on a weekly basis. It's been quite a ride, but we will definitely still be here. And we want you to be here with us. So we'll make sure that Erin says still sending texts, like she needs a reminder. So
yes, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked that, because part of backing off of the weekly production is so that I can spend more time with the weekly promotion. Because the bottom line is that I've got a full plate in so many other areas of my life, and I was very naive about what my abilities were going to be living in this limited condition. And I was very naive about how much time I was going to have in each day. I thought that I would have time to properly promote the show, to do all that kind of stuff that the show needs to be able to get the word out. So I'm backing off the weekly production so that I can go heavier into the promotion aspect of it. So yes, I will still be letting you guys know, but the goal moving forward is that rather than spending so much time producing the weekly show, I'm going to put more time into each monthly event so that we can start getting people to these places that I'm going. It was wonderful last week to have D-Rex and Ann and Ann's family with us. I hope that moving forward that we'll be able to choose locations and start doing things where I can get more of you guys involved. I told you guys a year and a half ago that my goal was to hug all your heads off. And that is still my goal. I hope that in this Project 55, I can get to the point where anyone that chipped in to save my life, I want to be able to give you a personal in-person thank you. So, these are, like I said, this is a move that we're making very begrudgingly because we do love the show. We love coming at you once a week, but we're doing it so that we can, start to refine it and hopefully make this project a little bit more effective in the long run. So, Bizzy, you have been amazing. Nate, we got hearts for you. For all of you guys that tuned in this week, thank you so much. Come back the third Thursday in March. So that's 4 weeks from now. We'll see you in 4 weeks. And if you guys have any recommendations, any requests, you know how to get at me. Please let us know what you'd like to see from us. D-Rex, thank you.
Thank you.
Always remember
what?
We're all in this together. Always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah. Thank you, everybody.
But you gotta believe